Chapter 1. Benny's Big Idea. Benny the bunny was always full of ideas. He was a small, curious little rabbit with light brown fur, white patches on his belly, and bright green eyes that sparkled with excitement. Benny lived with his grandpa, Papa Bunny, in a cozy little house nestled in the middle of a beautiful meadow. It was a bright and sunny morning, and Benny was already hopping around his room, excited to start his day. Today felt different. Today felt like the perfect day for a big adventure. "Benny, don't forget to eat your breakfast," called Grandpa from the kitchen. But Benny was already too busy to think about breakfast. His mind was buzzing with thoughts of what lay beyond the meadow. He had explored every corner of their yard, learned every path through the field, but there was one place he hadn't ventured into yet, the deep forest beyond the meadow. Benny had heard stories about the forest from Grandpa. It was a place of mystery, full of towering trees, hidden streams, and strange creatures that Benny had only heard of in stories. And of course, that's exactly where Benny wanted to go. "Grandpa, I'm going into the forest today," Benny declared. Grandpa Bunny, an old rabbit with a soft white and gray fur coat and round glasses, paused for a moment. He had lived through many adventures of his own and knew just how tricky the forest could be. "Be careful, Benny," Grandpa said, stroking his white beard. "The forest can be a tricky place for a curious little bunny like you. Promise me you'll stay close and remember what I told you about being careful." Benny, however, was already bouncing excitedly toward the door. "I'll be fine, Grandpa. I'm just going to explore. Don't worry." And with that, Benny rushed out the door, a colorful patchwork vest bouncing on his back and a red bow tie swaying as he dashed off. Chapter 2. The Mysterious Forest. Benny hopped toward the edge of the meadow, where the tall trees of the forest loomed like giants in the distance. His heart raced with excitement, his long ears twitching as he thought of all the wonders the forest might hold. Birds chirped, the breeze rustled through the leaves, and Benny could almost hear the whisper of adventure calling his name. He skipped along, humming to himself, when suddenly he spotted a familiar face in the distance. Tilly the turtle. Tilly, with her smooth green shell and little round glasses, was slowly making her way through the meadow. "Hello, Tilly!" Benny called, waving his paw. "Oh, Benny," Tilly said, looking up from her slow walk. "What are you up to today?" "I'm going into the forest," Benny replied with a grin. "I want to see what's beyond the trees. Maybe I'll find treasure or a hidden waterfall." Tilly shook her head slowly, her glasses sliding down her nose. "The forest is full of surprises, Benny. But remember, it's important to be careful. The trees can be tricky, and not everything you find will be what you expect." "I'll be fine, Tilly. Don't worry," Benny said, already bouncing toward the forest. "Thanks for the advice, though. Maybe I'll see you later." Tilly watched as Benny disappeared into the woods, her gentle eyes full of concern. She had a feeling Benny's adventure might be a little more than he was ready for. Chapter 3. The Lost Trail. The deeper Benny ventured into the forest, the quieter it became. The tall trees seemed to whisper in the wind, their branches stretching out like arms ready to embrace him. Benny loved it. He hopped along the winding path, his ears perked, listening for any sounds that could lead him to his next discovery. But soon he realized he had wandered farther than he meant to. The familiar meadow and his cozy home were nowhere in sight. The trees all looked the same, and the birdsong had faded into the distance. Benny's small heart skipped a beat. "Uh-oh," he murmured, his green eyes widening. "I think I'm lost." Benny's ears drooped, and he stood still, looking around nervously. The forest, which had once seemed like an exciting adventure, now felt much bigger and scarier than he had imagined. "I should have listened to Grandpa," Benny muttered, feeling a little scared. Just then, a soft hoot echoed through the trees. "Who's there?" Benny called, his voice trembling slightly. Out from behind a thick branch came Hoot the Owl, a wise old owl with big yellow eyes. He perched on a low branch, looking down at Benny with an amused glint in his eye. "Well, well, Benny the bunny," Hoot said in his slow, deep voice. "Lost already?" I didn't mean to get lost, Benny said, hopping in place anxiously. I just wanted to see what was out here, but now I don't know how to get back home. Hoot nodded sagely. It's easy to lose your way in the forest, but don't worry, I can help. First, you must follow the path that's right in front of you, but be careful of the twists and turns. Benny, feeling a little better, nodded. Thanks, Hoot. I'll be careful. Chapter 4. The Big Oak Tree. As Benny followed Hoot's advice, he soon came across a large, gnarled tree with a hollow at its base. The bark was rough, and the tree's branches twisted and turned in strange patterns. Benny approached the tree cautiously, his curiosity getting the better of him. What do you think is inside this tree? Benny asked himself aloud. Without thinking, Benny hopped closer and poked his nose into the hollow. To his surprise, he found a small wooden door. It was old and covered in moss, but Benny's eyes sparkled. He loved discovering hidden things. I bet there's something magical behind this door, Benny exclaimed. He pushed on the door and it creaked open with a little effort. Inside was a dusty old chest covered in cobwebs. Benny's heart raced as he opened the chest with his tiny paws. Inside, he found an assortment of strange objects, an old map, a small golden key, and a collection of tiny trinkets that looked like they had been passed down for generations. This must be Grandpa's old chest, Benny realized with wide eyes. He told me stories about these treasures. Chapter 5. The Big Return. After his exciting discovery, Benny realized that it was time to head home. The sun was starting to dip below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the forest. He took the map and the key and tucked them safely into his vest. Benny retraced his steps, following the clues Hoot had given him. Along the way, he ran into Milo the squirrel, who was hopping around in excitement. "Benny, where have you been?" Milo asked, his bushy tail twitching. "I got a little lost," Benny said, showing off the treasures he'd found. "But now I'm heading home. Come on, let's go back to Grandpa's house together." The two friends made their way through the forest, laughing and chatting as they went. As they reached the edge of the forest, Benny saw Grandpa Bunny waiting for him by the meadow. Chapter 5. The Big Return. After his exciting discovery, Benny realized that it was time to head home. The sun was starting to dip below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the forest. He took the map and the key and tucked them safely into his vest. Benny retraced his steps, following the clues Hoot had given him. Along the way, he ran into Milo the squirrel, who was hopping around in excitement. "Benny, where have you been?" Milo asked, his bushy tail twitching. "I got a little lost," Benny said, showing off the treasures he'd found. "But now I'm heading home. Come on, let's go back to Grandpa's house together." The two friends made their way through the forest, laughing and chatting as they went. As they reached the edge of the forest, Benny saw Grandpa Bunny waiting for him by the meadow.